Hello and welcome to the Ilene Silverman Show. I'm your host, Ilene, and on this week's program, our guests discuss the upcoming Jewish Food Festival hosted by Congregation B'nai Israel, featuring the cuisine and charm of an old-fashioned Jewish American delicatessen. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. On Sunday, February 26th, the entire community is invited to attend the Jewish Food Festival, a celebration of authentic, kosher Jewish deli cuisine. To tell us more, I'm pleased to introduce my guest, Richard Scher, Professor Emeritus, University of Florida Political Science, and Chair of the Jewish Food Festival. And Richard, it is great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm very happy.
Oh, well, I'm very excited that you have chosen to lead the way so that we can have a Jewish Food Festival, because I'm quite excited about it because I love to eat. And I love,
Don't we all?
yes, and I'm looking forward to the taste of the Jewish deli food. And so tell us, how did this whole idea get started? And thank you for chairing this committee, but how did you get going?
Well, it got started because actually the food festivals, Jewish food festivals, have started to mushroom all around the country. There are literally hundreds of them, and including in some very remote towns. I mean, Corpus Christi, Texas. How many Jews are there in Corpus Christi? They have a big food festival. Tallahassee, Jacksonville, in Florida, there are quite a few. So this has been a mushrooming activity over the last decade. So it's about time we did it.
Yes. Okay. And then tell me all about when it's going to happen. I've already said Sunday, February 26th. It's from noon to 3. It is at Congregation B'nai Israel.
Right, because we needed a venue, and that's the best venue.
Right.
And since it's a strictly kosher activity, that would be the best place. It's a kosher synagogue, and everything that takes place will be kosher in it. Now, as far as with the activities themselves, there's something for everybody. It's important to point out that for children, there are things, be a full day, a full afternoon anyway of activity, kids things. There'll be plenty of food. There'll be beer and wine for sale on a sort of a cash bar basis.
Right.
There'll be music.
Oh, klezmer band.
Yeah, who knows? There might be dancing. It depends how.
Oh, no, I'll get up and dance. Don't worry. Don't be
Excited
dancing.
people get. But we're very excited about this. To be honest, we think, and all of us who are involved in this think that this is a chance not only for B'nai Israel to make a contribution to the entire community, but it's a chance for the entire community to know us, to come. People who would not necessarily come to a religious service will nonetheless come and have a nice pastrami sandwich.
Yes.
Because everybody likes Jewish food.
They do. And why deli food? Because see that it's ringing all these chords of reminiscing in my mind. Warman's Deli in Jacksonville. My family's from there originally. My mother, Safer family of Jacksonville, were related to the Warman's family. So the moment you say deli, all of this taste and sound and aromas. It all starts to bring good memories to my mind. And I know that I'm not alone in that. And that's whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. Deli food is
That's right. That's when
a cornerstone.
I think when most people think of Jewish food, they think of a delicatessen
A good
type
deli
of thing.
sandwich.
But the
No.
truth is, the delicatessen, the Jewish American deli, really started in New York in the late 1890s. And a lot of people don't realize that they started as really takeout services. They were not
yeah.
restaurants in
Okay,
the sense
yeah.
we think of most of them today, because so many of the immigrants who came from Eastern and Central and even Southern Europe and Russia, of course they were Ashkenazi, but most of them were men, many of them were single men, many of them were young men. They lived in these sort of what we used to call single room occupant really
yeah.
hovels on the Lower East Side. They had no place to cook, and most of them didn't know how anyway. So the deli, including especially as a kosher deli, developed as a way for these men to have something to eat, and they would literally stop. They were open almost 24 hours a day.
Right.
They would stop on the way home so they could have something to eat, bring up to their little room or whatever it is.
Okay, so first
where
it
it
was
started.
the need, the necessity,
right.
and that was the beginning.
Right.
All
And
right.
then it wasn't until the 20s or even the 30s,
Right.
in spite of the Depression, that sort of the idea of maybe a place where you could actually sit down and eat a sandwich or whatever. That's where it came from. And so we thought, since the deli food is really the archetypal Jewish food,
Right, exactly.
that this would be a good place to begin. Everybody knows it. Almost everybody likes it. And I might say, for the people who don't like it, there'll be other things to eat as well.
All right, because I see first you've got the plate that we have choices of sandwiches and meats.
Correct, yes.
Then you have a vegetarian
We have
offering.
salads of a variety of kinds.
Right, hummus.
That's right. There'll be that quite a number of salads, as a matter of fact. There'll be bread, pardon me, various breads, and of course for the kids, everyone's favorite hot dogs, and there's no reason why a grown-up can't have a hot dog either.
No, I might be doing that. Yeah.
You know,
and what about those kosher dill pickles?
Ah, yes, thank you. The kids in the religious school and in the day school, they're making the pickles, or at least most of them. So it's a fundraiser for them, and of course a major contribution to the whole enterprise. So we're very proud that the school kids are so intimately involved in this.
I agree. And we're going to take a quick break, even though we have much more to cover. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the Jewish Food Festival, and I'm pleased to introduce Rabbi David Kaiman of Congregation B'nai Israel. Thank you so much, Rabbi, for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Eileen.
Oh, well, all my life, I've been a member of Congregation B'nai Israel, so this is special for me also. And I'm looking forward, Richard, to this wonderful, very tasty event. And to keep our conversation going, first of all, it was fascinating at the beginning of delis, which I had not realized the evolution. But then again, what is Jewish food, and how did all of this begin so that we of the Jewish faith are so tied into our food? It's like you can't separate our whole history from food. And I know others out there can feel the same about food, but hey, I have two authorities here, so get us started. Help us understand.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's that famous story that supposedly goes back before to the Greek period, really, which is they tried to kill us, God saved us, let's eat. And that sort of attitude has permeated Jewish culture anyway, if not religion, for, 2,000 years and more. In fact, I would be prepared to say that you can't write a history of Judaism, especially from a cultural standpoint, historical, without talking about food. It's an integral part of Jewish life. I mean, there are religious stipulations about what you can eat and can't eat. Of course, one thinks of the tradition of matzah and going way back. So this is an ancient connection between the two.
Indeed.
And I also want to add that Jews have lived in so many different places.
Exactly.
And in every place that Jews were, wherever they lived, they absorbed the flavor, literally absorbed the flavor in the foods that surrounded them. And I think one of the appeals of Jewish food is that it reflects all these different cultures that have come to us. And we've taken them, absorbed them, and made them uniquely ours through our own cultural and religious filter in a way, so that we have a kind of richness that reflects the whole world.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the scholars who think about these things have suggested that there are probably 8 to 10 different traditions of Jewish food. And we in the United States and Canada, Western, to think about Ashkenazi, the Ashkenazi from Central and Eastern Europe, Prussia.
Yes.
But that's not the only one. It's just the one that we know best.
It's what I know best because that's my origins.
Exactly,
my
and for
family's
most
roots.
of us, and that would be mine also, at least through my father's side. But there's also the Sephardic tradition, the Mizrahi tradition, Persian. As my class learned last week, there's an Ethiopian tradition of Jewish food, which the students were fascinated by.
So it is far-reaching. And so some of this will be, represented in the Jewish Food Festival, despite the deli. I mean, we do have some Middle Eastern. We have our...
There'll be some, yes. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
A little bit of that.
Not it's hard to...
You can't pull it all in at once. That'll be the second one, and the third one, and the...
Right,
have to stay on chairing the committee.
I don't understand why some people don't like pastrami, but they don't.
I'll go for the corned beef.
I think our idea with this very first festival was to present some interesting, unique, not really different, but what people expected of a Jewish food festival. And as the years go forward, we'll add different varieties from around the world. I'm certain of it.
No, I know. And that, to me, that's just something to look forward to. So I'm excited that we have our first annual. And Richard has already talked about the fact that it is kosher. So Rabbi Kaiman, speak a little bit to that.
Sure. Of course, one of the unique aspects of Jewish life has been our combining the ancient teachings of the Torah with modern life and our understanding of what it is we as Jews can and cannot eat, what's appropriate for us to eat based on our tradition. So we wanted to make a festival that reflected our tradition, reflected our practices, and could include as many people as possible. As there are many people in our community who keep kosher, who eat kosher. So we wanted this to be a festival that everyone could enjoy. So bringing kosher food from all over here to Gainesville, from New York, Atlanta, Miami, bringing it here so that we can enjoy a little bit of Jewish food here in Gainesville.
it is a community-wide event, and it's embracing us all through what we love best, food.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we're going to take another quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the Jewish Food Festival with Richard Scher and Rabbi David Kaiman. And gentlemen, it's going to be a great festival, but I'm learning so much that's going to make me appreciate the Jewish Food Festival even more. And Richard, your knowledge of Jewish food and its origin, and it's fascinating. I'm just so enjoying listening to you and this conversation. So tell us more about the origin of Jewish foods and more about our history.
Well, it's a wonderful history, and as I mentioned earlier, I don't think you can write the history of the Jews without thinking and writing about their food. I mean, it really started at the very beginning in the Garden of Eden, but beyond that, I mean, more practically, Jews have always had sort of two problems that they had to deal with. One is, where were they located, and what kind of food was there where they could actually
partake of?
Yeah, actually eat, because they can't grow stuff in a country or in a field that is just not inappropriate. So they had to figure out what was local that they could eat, and what they could how they could adapt the food to the Jewish laws, which are so important. Right. The other is, so often Jews were poor, and so they were often very much influenced in their food choices and design by simply a lack of finances. So they really had to be very creative, and that's been all through the ages.
Right. That's how they made the difference. Creativity.
Absolutely. And they ended up with some pretty tasty stuff.
They did, I have to say. I congratulate them. Yes. Absolutely. And those dietary laws, fundamental to our faith. How does all of that fit in?
Well, the idea with the dietary laws are that we trace all the way back to the Bible certain prohibitions that we do not include. As you know, pork products, for example, are not included. Also, mixing of milk and meat products in the same meal, certainly not part of Jewish tradition. But Jews have always been creative and innovative in being able to find a way to be able to take the foods that they were able to find, foods that were local, foods that were available, and adapt them in some way to fit the Jewish diet.
well thought out and well said. And of course, as we said, we're really glad because we're enjoying the food now. But it does speak to the whole history and evolution of the Jewish people in food, and how where you live and the weather and geography and laws of the land all play a part in that, as you would know.
I think you hit a good point about the laws. There were times in different places where Jews were actually forbidden to eat certain foods, or have certain types of foods. For example, wine. In the Middle Ages, even into the Renaissance and beyond, Jews were not allowed to have the same wine that, let's say, the nobles had. They had to make their own wine, and often it tasted terrible. And that's why they mixed sugar in it, so that we could drink it, for, at least, even just for sacramental purposes.
Right.
Not because they liked it so much. But,
so need is what is the driving force.
Necessity is the mother of invention,
Exactly.
and the history of Jewish food, I think, is summed up in that. Really.
Yes, well said. And when we speak about delis, we all have our favorites, our thoughts. We've been talking together about that. But most, are they kosher anymore, or what's they say they're kosher style?
I think many delis today have so much variety, try to appeal to a wide audience. Some are strictly kosher, and some are kosher style. I recall with such fondness the great delicatessens of New York and of Miami, and you mentioned earlier Warman's Deli in Jacksonville. I think Gainesville folks who used to go to Jacksonville remember that wonderful, flavorful, really traditional delicatessen. Food is something we remember, and it's part of us. And when we think back to our childhoods, flavors of our parents and our grandparents, food is what makes us who we are.
It's at the heart of it.
It's at the heart of it.
Yes.
And the stomach of it.
Right. Well said.
I like that too.
Yeah,
well
right.
said. And stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking about the Jewish Food Festival. And Rabbi Kaiman, throughout this year, Congregation B'nai Israel has centered on food. So talk about what that has meant throughout this year.
We hit upon the idea of being able to make a theme for this year, and we thought food would be a fantastic theme. Not only Jewish food, but various types of food, because really what connects us as a community very often happens around the dinner table.
Right.
But also because we understand there are many in our community who don't have enough to eat. And so having food collections and food drives as part of our annual theme has been a way for our community to step forward. You know, for more than 20 years, our congregation has been serving meals at St. Francis House twice a month.
Yes.
So we thought this was a perfect year to highlight food for our own benefit, but for the community's benefit as well.
Exactly, because we realize there are those not as fortunate, and it's up to us to lead the way, to pay it forward, to give
Absolutely.
back. I know the synagogue collects for Bread of the Mighty Food Bank, helps in other ways, and teaches that to the children that are,
Absolutely.
part of the day school, the Hebrew school, members of the congregation.
Sure.
And I think that's important, and that's another part of this Jewish Food Festival. It is multi-generational.
Absolutely.
Food is for everyone.
Food is for everybody and touches everybody's life, no matter what your background, no matter where you are or who you are. Food is a necessity of life, but it also brings people together. And that's really what we're interested in, building community.
Yeah.
Exactly, and food is just a way to make that happen. And Richard, your classes at Congregation B'nai Israel, and again, when you were a professor at UF, I mean, well respected, well thought of, and I know the Jewish food class you've been offering has been
It's been well received. It was very, very gratifying. In fact, one of the members of the class even made a donation to the synagogue about the class, or in honor of the class. I'll probably teach it again next year. This year is almost over. But the class is called "What is Jewish Food?" And in the program, this lovely program, but haven't even scratched the surface.
I know.
So much to talk about. And I will say that in the class is always samples.
Oh,
so
well, that.
nobody goes home hungry.
Okay.
And so
That is a good thing.
We'll do
yes,
it.
a little taste test
Yes,
always helps.
Right.
And talk about tasting the Jewish Food Festival. Okay, share the details once again.
Sure. Well, the date is February the 26th.
Sunday.
And on a Sunday. It's in the afternoon, so that we hope everybody can come by and have and enjoy.
Noon to 3.
Noon to 3. There's going to be traditional deli sandwiches that are going to be available for adults. There are going to be hot dogs for adults and for children. There are going to be desserts. There are going to be knishes. There's going to be ragala, hummus, Israeli salad, and also beer, wine, and other things to drink. It's going to be something for everybody.
Klezmer music,
klezmer
kids' activities.
Bounce houses for the children.
Yeah, love it.
It's just going to be a fantastic afternoon for us all to celebrate and enjoy being
Yes,
together.
And we need to get our tickets and get them soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're asking that people call the synagogue or speak to a member of B'nai Israel and buy a ticket in advance. We do anticipate this to be a sellout event.
Definitely.
And once we've sold
There's
everything
only so
we
much
have,
food.
that's all we have.
Yes, only so much food to go around, so it's important to make your call, get your tickets. I've got mine. And I want to thank you, Richard, for chairing the committee so that we can have this wonderful Jewish Food Festival, and for sharing such important knowledge with us.
Thank
Truly
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for letting people know about the festival.
Oh, my pleasure. And Rabbi David Kaiman, thank you so much for all you do for Congregation B'nai Israel and for the entire community. We all appreciate you.
Thank you.
Many thanks. And I hope I will see you at the Jewish Food Festival. I'm so glad you tuned in, and I hope you'll join us next week. Take care.